future is now.
Hi there, it's Cheryl Cran. I hope that you're staying safe and doing well during this crazy time that we are living in. It's been, I think, around 3 weeks now. I'm not sure what day it is or what time it is. It's definitely been surreal. I have talked with colleagues and clients saying it does feel like we're in a movie of sorts, and that the plot continues to thicken and we're sort of making our way as we go. This week I wanted to share a video on sort of my thinking and my thoughts for the last few weeks around this change that we're in. I mean, we are in a major disruption. We have never had a disruption of this nature before. We don't know, of course, what the future holds, but we do know that with what's happened now, it's like this game changer that we're all navigating as we go through it day by day. And I am a naturally optimistic person. That's how I'm wired. I'm not a rose-colored glasses kind of person, but I am a pragmatic optimist. And when I was thinking to myself, well, what is optimism? Optimism to me is two things. Number one, optimism to me is I completely trust myself and my abilities to handle whatever comes my way. And that's a question that I would ask you is because a lot of times when we fear the future, it's we've lost trust because we're not sure where we stand. We're in quicksand. We're in this no man's land. We're in this zone of not knowing what's next, and it's very destabilizing, and it's the highest level of uncertainty that any of us could ever go through. And so being wired as an optimist, I'm always looking for the gold in any circumstance that is unsettling, uncertain, and is a change. So, I trust myself. And do you trust yourself? Do you trust that you have the capability to make it through? Well, of course you do. You have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the compassion, you have the care, you have the desire to make the world a better place. And so trusting in yourself is one place that I come back to when I start to feel wobbly, when I start to feel like, things are not sure where we're going to land here. I come back to, I trust that I have the skills, the support, the people. And then the other piece of being optimistic is actually around trusting the future. And that does require faith. And I'm not talking religious faith here. I'm talking trusting that things will work out in a way that's going to benefit us in some way, that we will look at this in hindsight and go, wow, because that happened, I made these changes, or because that happened, I got even closer to my partner. Whatever it might be, we can say in hindsight, once we're through the circumstance, we can look back and say, well, here's what I can see as the good of what came out of that. When we look at change through the lens of the change cycle, which I talk about in my book, The Art of Change Leadership, Driving Transformation in a Fast-Paced World, what we're dealing with right now is we're in the transition zone of change, which is the most difficult part of change to ever navigate, because there's no sense of structure, there's no sense of knowing where the end point is. And so transition is for most people psychologically the most difficult part of change. So it's one of the skills that we're building as we get future ready is being able to deal with ambiguity, being able to deal with the lack of knowing and yet still trust the future. And that's what's being demanded of us right now. Some of the ways that I trust the future is by focusing on good news. So obviously I stay informed. I'm watching and listening to what's happening in the world globally, but I'm also balancing that with information that makes me feel hopeful in the future and helps me trust the future. So that's why I follow things on Instagram like Tank's Good News or the Good News Movement, or any of those things that give data on what's happening as a result of this, how people are coming together, doctors and nurses coming out of retirement to help the healthcare system in New York and in other countries, the banging of the pots and pans at 7 p.m. every night to rally around the healthcare workers and to help them know that we care, that we really appreciate what they're doing, and that we value their contributions to essential services while the rest of us do what we can in our homes to stay socially distant and socially isolated. So I really wanted to, it took me a while to do this video because I didn't want to come across as it's all going to be okay. But I did tune in, and in my daily meditations got really quiet and deep and silent with that trust factor. Trusting that where we are now is exactly where we are supposed to be. Trusting that right now there are teenagers and young adults and people of varying ages innovating things that are going to make the world a better place right now, in their garages or in their homes or in their basements. Right now, innovations that are going to move us beyond this crisis are going to help the world be a better place. When I read about people making sewing masks to make them available to their community, whenever I read about humanity rising, then my trust factor goes up immensely. What I notice is if I listen to the constant negative or the constant sort of almost feeling demoralized about the progress we're making, then I notice what that does to my energy. And I notice that it's time for me to now do something that shifts that energy. It doesn't mean that we're bypassing the feelings of sadness or anger or shift in identity, which are all very real experiences that many of us are going through right now. But what it does mean is, again, if we bring it back to that trust in self and trust in future, we can find ourselves spending more time in optimism. And you will have more energy in optimism, which means we can then use our time for spending more time in inspiration versus spending time in desperation. And so I really wanted to share this video that I'm with you. We are in a connected reality because of social media, because of all of the media that we are exposed to. We can tune into the varying levels of reality that people are going through right now. And I have the deepest empathy and compassion for all of those working in essential services. And I have the deepest empathy and compassion for those who are dealing with being self-isolated with children as a single mom and not feeling like they have the support or the relief to have a break, or people who have been socially isolated because of disabilities or other abilities, and now it's being heightened because there's not as much connection. And then again, on the counter side of that, I look at what people are doing with Zoom and having Zoom weddings and Zoom happy hours and Zoom connections, and employers supporting their employees and continuing to pay them while we go through this time of uncertainty. So I choose to focus on the good of humanity, and I trust that the future is going to be better because I trust myself and my contributions to that future, and I trust you that your learnings and that your understandings and that your new awarenesses are going to create even more insight, compassion, and understanding that we're going to all bring back to our lives today as well as in the future. So I hope that this video inspired you beyond where you currently are to go, I trust myself, I trust the future, we got this.